Hey, we help business owners to triple their revenue and profits and double their time off. My name's Barry Magliotti, CEO and founder of The Game Changers. And over the past 8 years, we've literally helped hundreds of business owners around the world to triple their profits and double their time off. And today I want to speak about one important component of that, which is around systemisation. What business systems do you need to be putting in place? And how do you start it? How do you go about it? The one thing that I've noticed time and time again amongst many prospects we speak to before joining the Game Changers Opulence program is that they're trying to implement the wrong systems at the wrong time. There's five core stages of business that we see people move through. And if you spend time and money and resources implementing the wrong systems at the wrong time, or even the right systems at the wrong time, it can be detrimental for scaling your business and obviously making the profit, getting the growth that you could within your business and within your industry. And I want to speak briefly around what I perceive those five stages are before we kind of go on to talking about the systems and how to go about implementing them. The first stage we speak about is around the dream up stage. And dream up is when you're essentially doing $0 in revenue. It's really around validating your idea, and you've got this great idea, but how would you know people are actually even willing to buy the idea? I've seen a lot of terrible business owners that are running multi-million-dollar businesses very profitably without a sense of running a business at all, because they have a really good offer in a really good niche. And likewise, I've seen a lot of amazing business owners that are very, very smart and shrewd when it comes to business, doing poorly, not making any money, struggling to grow their business because they've got a very poor offer in a crowded marketplace. And so the dream up stage is all around validating your idea. And really the things you want to be focusing on at this point in time is around your distribution channels. Like, how are you going to get this product or service out to the masses? And so really it starts to look at what we see as maybe the marketing and sales component or process of the business. The next phase is a startup phase, and this is essentially $0 to $500,000 in annual revenue. The startup phase is often the riskiest phase, and that's because we see that less than 4% of business owners make it past their first 5 years in business. And it's because, often they're starting out the business for the first time. There's all these different resources, knowledge, and all these things to take on board. They're wearing many, many hats. And they're not focused on the core things. They're going to see that business scale and succeed. And if you're in the startup phase of business, so you're between 0 and $500,000 a year, so you are making some form of revenue, the core systems or processes you should be focusing on is around marketing and sales. 80% of your time should be focused on building out your marketing and sales systems so you have a repeatable process of how you're generating new leads and making new sales into your business. The next phase we go up into is the ramp up stage, and ramp up is around that $500,000 to $750,000 mark. And really this kind of core phase is around stability, and you're wanting to stabilize the fulfillment and the cash processes in your business. So by this stage at $500,000, you have a sales and marketing system in place that's producing you predictable leads and predictable sales, or somewhat predictable. You want to start focusing on how do we make sure that we fulfill these at scale? Because by now you're probably running around doing many things. It's time to hire staff, if you haven't hired staff already, to deliver your product or service, or maybe run the marketing and sales for you. So we're going to look to create stability and stabilize the fulfillment aspect. How are you fulfilling on distribution of your products or service to your audiences, and also the cash part of things. You can get away with pretty poor cash collection processes in place up to around the $500,000 mark, depending on businesses. Yet if you haven't got a process in place for making sure that you're getting paid on time and that you're paying bills on time, it can start to become an absolute nightmare when you get up over that $500,000 to $750,000 mark, because by that stage, if you're not collecting cash as frequently and as easily, and obviously paying your bills, you can have challenges getting products and supplies from your suppliers. You can also have issues obviously paying staff, but you also have issues bankrolling the business growth, especially if you're in a business that's selling products and more so than services, because there's a huge outlay of actually buying those things yourself. The next phase we want to go into is a scale-up phase, which is where things start to get exciting. So the scale-up phase is between that $750,000 to $1 million mark, and really the things that you want to start to focus on in this area is people and KPIs. So at the $750,000 mark, you've now no doubt got people working for you, and culture starts to become a thing. If you've done things right, you're starting to remove yourself out of the sales and marketing, you've started removing yourself out of the fulfillment aspect. Therefore, you've brought on board other talent, other resources to help you conduct your business. And it's now really about installing your DNA. So what are your vision, mission, and values? What's the culture that you want to create within your organization? So even if you're not there, the business is still thriving and still attractive and looking like as if you're there yourself. And so culture and KPI management. KPI management, key performance indicators, are really around how can you make sure that if you're sitting on a beach somewhere in Hawaii or in Bali, how can you look at your phone and in just reading anywhere between 3 to 7 numbers, know that your business is on track, that it's growing, that it's healthy, and that it's profitable. So KPIs and talent start to become a significant focus around this scale-up phase, but also really making sure that you have the financial stability side of things happening. You know, remember in the ramp-up stage, we talked about getting your processes in place for the cash collection and payment side. Financial stability in that next phase of scaling up is really around making sure that as you scale profitably. We meet a lot of business owners that get up to that $500,000, the 750 mark, and they go from being super profitable to being to losing a lot of money. And the reason being is they start to scale their expenses greater than they're scaling their incomings, because they're obviously wanting to hire staff. And if you haven't got the right systems and processes and procedures in place, you're not measuring the right KPIs, and you start bringing on board staff, it's too hard to understand whether or not you're actually achieving your profitability targets on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. Which is why in that scale up stage, it's really important to have both the people and the cultural aspect and the KPIs put in place. The next phase we get to is the leader up phase, or what I call giddy up. And the main reason being is that you're over $1 million mark, which you're above 4% of businesses worldwide. If you're over the $1 million a year mark, right now, congratulations, you've outgrown 96% of businesses out there, so well done, yet there's still a long way to go. We met a lot of business owners that are doing in excess of $5, $10, even $20 million that haven't got systems and processes in place and literally running their business out of the bare seats of their bum. So this final stage of leader up is around $1 million plus, and it's where it gets really exciting. The reason being is because it's more around optimizing what you've currently got. Yet it can be a significantly challenging time, because any lessons that you've either learnt or haven't learned will come back to bite you in the ass. Now, if you're at that $1 million mark, or maybe 1.2, 1.5, and noticing that you haven't been able to get past that, maybe you've made a couple of runs up and you've hit that glass ceiling and come back down, it's because there's been some lessons that haven't been learnt in the prior stages to get you to here. And unless you go back and simplify the business, remove the complexity, get the structure set up in place around your marketing and sales systems, your fulfillment systems, your cash collection processes, obviously building out that culture and KPIs, you're going to struggle to get to 8 figures, because a lot of the habits and attitudes and mentalities that got you to where you are right now are almost the complete opposite that'll get you to eight figures. In that early stage up to $1 million, it's a lot about the hustle, it's a lot about the grind and just getting shit done, making a lot of decisions, making a lot of mistakes, and just constantly moving things forwards. Yet those same attitudes and behaviors could be massively detrimental getting you to 8 figures. And mainly because getting to 8 figures requires a lot more around leveraging of your time, leveraging of your money, leveraging of your skill sets as well. So now that I've given you the 5 stages that a business goes through, and we talk about the lead up stage, it's really around Kani or Kaizen, so constant and never-ending improvement of all those areas. The thought process has become very different. It's more, how can I improve, rather than what needs to be built. It's a very different way of thinking. I want to start to share with you a little bit around like the intro into systems and processes, what they are, how to implement them, and why do you need them. Michael Gerber talks about systems and processes being the standard operating procedure, or the standard way that you can do business without you as a business owner being involved. And it was something that took me a long time to grasp, because being a typical entrepreneur, my focus was always on the next shiny thing. I loved the sales, I loved the hustle side of things. Yet things kept breaking, and the bigger we grew, the more that things broke. And I'll never forget my first business, which we grew to multi-million dollars a year. I essentially had myself a very hectic and very busy job. I had 15 odd staff with 4 contractors, a few $1 million a year in turnover, 0 marketing and sales activities systemised, and yet the whole entire business relied on me. And it was until I worked out this methodology around systems and processes, which may or may not be a new thing for you, the things truly unlocked for me and have helped me build the game changers into the businesses today, and has helped us to build many of our clients' businesses to a level where the business operates without them, or beyond them, as we'd like to say. And what that means is that right now I could take 3 months off and come back, and I would know that my business is still grown. We would still be making sales, bringing on board new clients, creating incredible results and experiences for our clients, because we have these processes, systems in place. And they're basically standard operating roadmaps of how you do business. Now, we spoke before about the stages, and it's important to note because, if you're at that startup phase and you want to go and put in a system for managing team, or a system for completing projects, or a system for even fulfilling, most likely your business is going to continue to change, and those process of systems will become obsolete. I think it was the founder of LinkedIn that said that if you're not embarrassed by the first product or service you launched too late. And so really it's important to understand that the first systems and processes we want to work on is around that critical client flow. How are we attracting ongoing new opportunities, new prospects, new leads into the business, fresh new leads each and every day, each and every week? How are we then taking those leads and converting those leads, moving them through a sales process that builds trust, credibility, authenticity, and rapport, and moving them to a level where they become our clients? And that's really what we want to create first and foremost, whether you're in that startup phase up to $500,000, or even if you're a business right now doing a few $1 million and haven't got that in place. We work with a lot of trades businesses, and one thing that they constantly report before joining us is around the inconsistency of work. 1 minute they're quoting a lot of work, the next minute they're selling a lot of work, then they're delivering it, and all of a sudden, oh my God, we've got no work for the next month. And it's very hard to hire talent and to create stability when there's this cycle of being up and down. And so, systems are a step-by-step approach to achieving a repeatable and measurable outcome. And my definition of the difference between a system and a process is this. A process is like a flow chart. It's around a map that shows the stepstones along the way to go from start to finish. So start might be that you've got a lead that's come into your business. How do you take them from being an inquiry through to making their first deposit or paying for your service? What are the different steps or the decision points along the way that allow them to end up either doing business with you in a follow-up sequence, or in a follow-up to come back to them later because they haven't yet decided? So the process is around the map. The system is around each step. What is the how-to? Like when a lead comes in your system, how do they come into your system? How are they tagged? How are they organized within your CRM system? When you go to make that first appointment, what are the questions that you need to ask? What's the information you need to extract from them? How does that information get organized and put into your CRM system? Each and every step of that process, of that map, needs to have a system or a how-to behind it. And that will allow that when you step out of the business, you can hand over the process map to somebody else with all the different attached systems, and they can literally follow the exact same steps that you do in the business and achieve the same results. If I was to teach you right now how to make my coffee, you would then be able to make the coffee the same way that I make it, which would ultimately give me the same taste, the same experience as if I was making it myself. And systems are the same way. So the reason that they're so important is because as an entrepreneur, it's going to free you up. Now, I know right now, if you are a typical entrepreneur, or visionary as we call them, and you're not so much of an integrator, so you like more the big picture and making things happen, you're going to resist putting systems in place because they seem to be a whole lot of time for not much. It's not a shiny thing. It's not creating a new product or making a new sale. Yet it will allow you to hire staff, and it will allow you to build your business in such a way that allows you to play more in that area of genius. And my honest belief that you as a CEO or you as the visionary, the core system that you should create is a system for writing systems. It should be a step-by-step how-to create systems for your business. How do you document something that's done? And this is very much what I started to do in my business, because I was like, do I sit down and write a few hundred systems, or do I get my staff to do them for me? Number one, they're going to do them better than me because I'm going to miss steps or not necessarily go through sequentially in my head the way everything gets done because I'm so used to doing all the time. So the way that I did this was I'd hire a staff member to come into the business, and I would teach that staff member how to document a system. And then as I train them on their role or train them on what it would require them to do, I would ask them to go and create a systems manual out of my training for them. And what that meant is that A, I didn't have to go and complete it myself. B, they would ask the questions to ensure that the system they created, the how-to, was accurate and exact and had every step in place. And C, it allowed me to then take a perspective on what they put together to then add my input into it, which meant we could scale faster than if I was trying to do this myself. And that's where I see a lot of business owners get stuck, is believing that they have to implement all the systems themselves and put everything in place, rather than being smart enough just to create the first system in the way of doing it, and then as you onboard staff members, training them to do the exact same thing. So I think it's pretty clear like what systems are now, or processes, why they're important. Now it's kind of how do we go about doing them? The way that I see it is this, is that every single business has got between 4 to 9 core processes or maps. Any business, doesn't matter how big the business is, whether it's doing $1 million a year or $1 billion a year. And in our business, those kind of core processes are this. Number one, there's one around strategic planning and project management execution. There's one around our marketing process. How do we generate leads, both organically and paid, and bring them into an inquiry? They're an inquiry once we have a phone number, an email address, and a full name. Sales to cash. So how do we walk people through from being an inquiry to making their first payment for one of our programs, ideally Opulence or Boardroom? And then how do we take them from making their first payment to delivering them an experience where they can triple their profits and double their time off, and they hang around for many years to come? And so there's a fulfillment process we have. The next one is around HR. So how do we hire, train, and retain, and also offboard any talent, any staff members within the organization? We have a financial process. How do we receive payment? What's our collection process if people don't pay us on time? Also, how do we make payments to our suppliers and our contractors and our staff? And between those core processes, those maps, we have the whole entire business covered. So if you look at the sales process, that's got 16 steps in it. Our marketing process is much more in depth. There's a few hundred steps because we have a number of different ways that we communicate, the way we generate leads. Our fulfillment process around once someone joins one of our programs is huge, it's massive. But each of those processes is documented in such a way that I can give them to a new staff member and they can literally walk through step by step and understand what a prospect or a team member goes through every step of the way. Every step of the way has a supporting how-to or systems document that goes down more into detail. And it's meant that between having the systems and processes in place, having a project management software in place to drive them, I'm operationally free from the business, which is my hope for you too. And I'm assuming if you're watching this video, it's something that you would like as well. So that's an overview of the 5 stages of business, systems and processes, what they are, why they're important, how to get started. If you're a business owner right now and you're noticing that you're maybe not quite growing fast enough or you're possibly stuck at the current level, my invitation to you is to click on a link somewhere below or even on our website. Book in a 15-minute application call with one of our scaling experts. They will just see whether or not there's an opportunity for us to help you. If they feel there's an opportunity to help you and you're a nice enough person to deal with, they'll look at booking in an hour complimentary game plan call where we can dive a lot deeper into you and your business, understand really where you're at, where have you been, have you gone up and come back down, or have you kept hitting your head against the glass ceiling, or are you just earlier on your journey and things seemingly moving along okay now, and where is it you want to go? Where are you at, where you want to go? And then we can help you to understand what are the steps to get there. This is something we've done for a long time now. We've worked with hundreds of clients around the world in all different sorts of niches, all different sorts of businesses, from selling physical products, widgets, to selling services and high ticket services as well. And we can help you to identify what are those steps that you may be not aware of right now that you need to move through. What are the things you need to implement so that you too can see a significant growth in your revenue and your profits, but also look at doubling your time off as well. Now that doesn't mean you don't have to work in your business. A lot of our clients are like, oh, but I love doing what I'm doing. That's totally cool. But the difference is being at the business because you have to be, because the wheels are going to fall off if you're not there, or being there because you choose to be and you love to be, but even if you weren't, the business would still operate. And that's my hope and wish for each and every one of you guys. So if you're feeling drawn to, if you're curious to find out more, book in a 15-minute application call with one of my scaling specialists. They can have a conversation with you, work out whether or not we might be able to help. And if so, we're gonna have a longer conversation to look at mapping your journey out and understanding where you're at, and equally too, maybe helping you to implement the processes and systems in your business so that you too can become operationally free. Once again, my name is Barry McGlady, CEO and founder of The Game Changers. I look forward to seeing you in the next video soon. Bye for now.